Good day, good evening, good morning, good night, whatever time you pick this up on social media. Welcome to Plain Talk. This is another in the hard-hitting series of shows dealing with national issues. I'm joined in studio today with a top panel. I have former Government Minister Devon Maraj,
Yeah, thank you.
Chairman of the Progressive Empowerment Party Felicia Holder,
Good day.
construction specialist Ruben Smith, and Ian Griffith. We also are joined on the phone by former Government Minister Vasant Bharat.
Good morning, Philip, and good morning to all of your listeners and viewers.
Okay, right. So
Everyone.
we're going to jump right in and get busy one time. Everybody, we're on a tight schedule today. The issues that are rearing its head every single day in this country is the collapse and breakdown of society. We wake up to a new horror story every single day. Today is more horrifying than most. Vasant, I don't know if you want to bring us in because you're friendly with the family, and I don't know if you want to bring us in with what took place.
Well, I don't know the exact details. All I've read is what I've seen on the internet this morning, Philip. In fact, I'm going down to visit the family now. But I think the country has gone past anger now with this unmanageable situation. A young man today has had his life plucked from him and his family. A young man who was not caught up in gang violence. A young man who was not drinking and driving and run into a pole. A young man who has spent his life dedicated to studying and being a good citizen, working hard, making several sacrifices. A young man whose parents would have sacrificed tremendously to bring him to the stage where he is today, contributing to the medical profession, and senselessly killed in what appears to be a kidnapping gone wrong. I think every citizen of this country must understand that this young man represented all that we as a society should be striving to become successful as a society. And when we take these people out, like they've taken this young man out, it leaves a lot of us with a sense of hopelessness, Philip, that we are almost on the brink of collapse. And I think that ordinary people feel that there's nothing and absolutely nothing they can do to remedy this situation. I am totally distraught this morning.
Callous disregard for human life. This is
Absolutely.
This is ridiculous. This story pushes us over the edge. I am sorry. Every time I hear a worse story, I get more outraged. But this one is outrageous, as you just said, and rightly so. This young man encapsulates the promise of the best we could strive to be. You sacrifice your whole young life when everybody else out fetting and partying. My niece is a final year med student, so I know the hours that they are on call, the amount of work. When you're living in Port of Spain, you have to spend a month in San Fernando. You're living in San Fernando, you have to spend a month in Mount Hope. The effort that they put out to get to this point and to have that so callously snuffed, I think we've crossed whatever the Rubicon was. I think we've crossed it.
And it's the dreams of aspirations also of their parents who have put so much into these children. Remember too, Philip, as you rightly say, when people are out fetting, the parents are also sacrificing it.
Indeed.
The parents of these children are also making huge financial and other sacrifices to be able to ensure that their children are well educated so that they give themselves a good chance in life and they can contribute to society. And I can only imagine what those poor parents are going through this morning.
Felicia Holder was on a panel discussion this morning on Synergy TV that wanted to pin the conversation to domestic violence. On that panel, she was there with Sergeant Pitt of the Domestic Violence Unit, Rondell Fields of the Single Fathers Association, David Abdullah, and Fuad Khan. The moderator was Stefan Rees. And the Progressive Empowerment Party's position then, and Felicia enunciated that, was that you cannot separate violence and give them different names and call some school violence and some murder and some criminal violence and some domestic violence. All of these cancers are the same cancer. We have a very violent society.
Correct, and I think that I didn't hear this morning's program, but the reality is that we've incrementally broken down because of what we see and what we have adopted from foreign cultures to a large extent. Which whether it's the rap music, whether it's the gang culture out of the US, whether it's the simple things like wearing your pants under your bottom, all of these are things that incrementally have seeped into our culture and has become part of almost who we are, so that it's become normal to a lot of people. It is almost an animalistic behavior, Philip.
Felicia, in that panel this morning, you thought that the other panelists were in touch with reality as it is going on now?
No, not really. I think everybody approached the topic from not just their perspective, but from a very narrow and very minute perspective, if you ask me, because a lot of these problems, as you see it, it's related to a wider problem in our society. And like you rightfully said, violence is violence.
This is a symptom.
This is a symptom
of a
broken, cancerous society that we have. And I did want to add to that very sad story and situation that happened this morning, that we tend to look at violence and think Mova Beatum Laventil, and we think gang lifestyle and people who, don't give a damn. But there are also those who get caught in the crossfire, those who live perfectly normal, straight and narrow lives, who spend since childhood growing up doing the right thing. But because we are such a violent society, you can get caught up in the crossfire, and this is what a lot of people not realizing, that you don't have to be involved in crime to
I just
be a
want to
victim.
add to that, right, to what you're saying, because I'm hearing what Vasant is saying. You're absolutely correct, but I also want to say this, and anybody could add to this, but I want to say that all of these people, the perpetrators and the victims, all of them were babies at one time. At one point in time, they were all blank slates, babies, with a life ahead of them. What took some to medical school and to a life of contribution, and what took others to a life of crime? Where are we as a society where it could be so, the difference between where you end up could be so vast that we end up preying on each other in this small state?
It had to be somewhere where our governments fail us. And I say governments because you look past and present and you look across the 57 going on 58 years of independence, and you watch the trends, and it's only gotten worse over the years. I mean, we would celebrate some years where crime went down by 5%, or it seemed to have declined. But even when we had Super Gary last year, the man who everybody thought was going to save Trinidad and Tobago, even when we had him, we still had the second highest murder rate. And that is not an indication of the police service alone. It's an indication of the nation itself. It's an indication of how
But Vasant said it, and he's correct. Collectively, it's spoiled. It is broken. This is not a country that you can say, and I challenge the president, I challenge Gillian Lucky when they say it's not a failed state. If it's not a failed state, then how come it is? To the parents of those children, to those two young doctors, because it was two of them that were kidnapped, and to the one who's so far dead, this is a failed state to them.
It is.
Devant?
I think this is such a tragic awakening this morning, when you are faced with persons who we could all identify with as some of the best in our society and where we want to see. But when you hear about the American dream, you think about going in with nothing and succeeding and achieving. The Trinidadian dream right now is to survive the next day.
Get home safe, wake up safe.
Get home safe, survive the night, avoid a home invasion, reach home.
You're safe nowhere.
The Trinidad
and look to leave the country as soon as possible.
That is the Trinidad dream. But Vasant, you're correct. I tell people,
Trinidad dream is to survive.
The Trinidad dream is to get your green card. On social media, the happiest Trinidadians are the ones who are not in Trinidad.
Ian? And the ones who can give all the advice.
Of course. Ian?
I would agree with that, but the problems, I agree with the discussion taking place this morning, but as you said in response to the show earlier, what we are doing here is reacting to reactions. So let's just go back a little bit to just show how outraged we were, and then listen to ourselves collectively. Shannon Banfield and a Japanese pants. It's carnival.
Asami.
We were just as outraged then.
Yeah.
We all came out, as I said to you in a text earlier this morning. Where's Romantra? The last time they appeared on the scene was when they wanted to get Raymond Timke out of office. God rest his soul, he has died. So is the PANIS dead. So we are outraged today, doctors, life snuffed out, and we'll be just outraged next year. And then stop until we
Next
stop.
year? You mean next 2 weeks?
Well, all right, but the point is we need to actually see, again, to repeat what you said, we are reacting to reactions, and that needs to tell us something.
Agreed.
Because this too will pass. Carnival Monday and Tuesday is coming. Hearts is going to be on.
People have their party tickets. They ain't taken Hearts yet.
What I find...
And that is symptomatic of what we are discussing, not to diminish the loss of life of anyone.
What I find unacceptable, and while what happened today was very tragic this morning, but a few days ago when, very close to where I live, Vassano, on Pinto Road, Getwell Avenue, 4 people were tied behind their hands but behind their back and their throats slit. Right?
I know hearing
the
that.
Chuni Singh family, they charged
that happened when?
They charged the persons yesterday or something like that, right? We have
3 persons.
Yeah, we have a crime situation in Trinidad, and the Minister of National Security is silent. Silent Stuart.
He is missing
Right?
in action.
And I do not accept that we have to blame Gary Griffith for this or anything. Gary, as Commissioner of Police, works with the resources he has
And within the
works
confines of
what the parameters that he has. Those who set policy and provide resources, we could find $400 million for a road in Manzanilla going nowhere. We could find $89 million for a president house that will be occupied once a few months. We could find $22 million for a Tobago Prime Minister residence, which we'll use as a vacation home essentially. But we can't find equipment for the
Boss,
police. We can't find...
We spent $500 million on the Red House.
You know?
On a building that was there.
So my issue really is Silent Stuart. Where Silent Stuart at this point in time?
Ruben, add to the conversation.
Having lived in a country where you wake up in the morning and you don't know whether you're going to come back, I understand the predicament. And the reasons why situations such as the one we are experiencing now is taking place is because the levels of inequality are rising. And unless we address that, we're not going to be able to address anything else.
Vincent, you agree that this is a problem to be solved at the level of government?
I believe that there is a level, a deep-seated level of inequality, but I think there's a deep-seated level of criminality that is seeped into our psyche that we need to have, over a period of time, serious policies to deal with. Now, I agree with Devan that this is not Gary's problem. The police's role at this point in time is to try to apprehend.
Reactionary.
They can only apprehend if they have the tools. The reality of the situation is the criminal justice system is broken. These criminals are very well aware that they could commit crimes and the possibility of being apprehended and being dealt with quickly is remote, and so therefore the propensity to commit the crime is greater than it would normally be in a society where there's swift justice. These are issues that we have to deal with. We have to deal with look, we have an education system that is completely and totally outmoded for what our needs are, what our children's needs are today. And we have to look at all of those things. Now, there are some, we have to look at it as short-term measures, medium-term measures, and longer-term measures.
No more reactionary measures. I agree.
No, absolutely. But the Minister of National Security, the Prime Minister, when he had a golden opportunity on Sunday evening to talk to the nation seriously about what this government's role is in arresting this crime situation, basically didn't have a solution. Said nothing meaningful to give the country hope.
You listen
now,
to
that is why a lot of young people are just hightailing it out of Trinidad and Tobago, those who can. And what we're going to be left with, Philip, the dregs of society.
But you listen to his clip when he said, and I had to call into 104.7 when they were talking about it, and I said, but this man is clueless and out of touch. When he said he is appeal, when the moderator or the interviewer asked him about domestic violence, and he said he wants to appeal to men to when you're about to engage in violence against a woman, to think about your mother and to think about your sister. And I had to ask, does this man think that somebody who's about to visit brutality on another human being is having a rational thought?
Well, it gives you an indication of how far removed from reality they really are. All of them. They're in the same. I mean, ask yourself, gentlemen and the lady on that panel, which government minister could put his or her hand up and say, I am proud of what I accomplished in my ministry in the last 4.5 years? Not a single one. Not one. And that's where we are. That's the reality.
As Vasan said that, we in our administration, we had to list all the projects we accomplished. Remember, Vasan, every single year, what were the projects we did? What projects?
But you know what you didn't do. You didn't do. You didn't remove the political moles and the political operatives from the state machinery. And because you didn't do that, because we continue to run a society that believes that because somebody in a position, I tell you this.
No, but I can tell you, that was the subject of heated discussion, because there were some who felt that persons had a right to have a political bias one way or the other.
That is not true.
Once they don't interfere with the
how could you not?
The running.
How could you not? If you're an arbiter,
then you run into a serious problem. Every administration come and go, then people will be playing chess with people moving out and.
But they do that now. But I'm talking about in important positions of state. We are getting to a place now, and I want to tell you this: we are getting to a place now where questioning the actions of state could land you up in the court. We are getting
reaching further than that. Questioning the actions of private companies who work for states.
Yeah, right? But even private companies I can understand.
No, I don't understand.
You, the court, that is a creature of taxpayers' funds, wants to sue for people questioning what the court is doing with those taxpayers' funds.
But as a state enterprise. But what about, I know of a particular incident where a contracting company doing work on behalf of Udicot on a state property was questioned as their bona fides and so on. And that private company now has issued a pre-action letter to the talk show host indicating that, listen, they have been damaged accordingly. So where
are we then?
Where are we going? Can't talk about anything.
And exactly, and I want to go there because we raise the point of, if this is a government responsibility, we can't just look at the symptoms at the lowest levels of society and say, well, this needs to be treated with, if we're not treating with the things that are causing it.
Well, I think, Philip, you also have a situation where people look to their leaders, if not intentionally, sometimes subconsciously, to how they behave, what they say, and they act appropriately in accordance with how their leaders behave. When you have a prime minister of a country who speaks to the population in the manner in which this prime minister speaks to the population, and deals with matters where his government is accused, or not even accused, but criticized of certain things, and he deals with it almost in a violent way, then what do you expect of citizens of the country who may be looking up to him as the leader and as a person on whose behavior they will pattern? And that is the real issue that we have in this country. We follow the pattern of our leaders.
But if the government sets the tone and the tenor of society.
This is the point I'm making. That is where the change has to start. That is where the real issues will be dealt with. When it's not a question of do as I say but not as I do, but I will do it this way and I will set the example from the top. Once you start to do that and set the right example, people will follow. That is only one aspect of it, of course, but it needs to be done.
All right. Well, in discussions like this, we normally kitchen sink a lot of things. So we make reference to a highway and we make reference to the president's house and so on. But that doesn't really get us to focus on solutions. And we have two ministers here from a government who also had the opportunity to make an impact on society, and the judiciary was brought up. Okay, and everyone is going to agree there are problems therein. But you indicated that you all had to demonstrate what it is you all did. During your term, what did you all do to address the problems in the judiciary that could have began the process of positively impacting the change? It's okay now in 2020 to say that the PNM, who has had control over it, may not be doing anything, because we do have a Chief Justice who is clouded. We have an Attorney General who seems to be on a batting average to lose every case he puts forward.
He lost another one today.
Well, again, you see,
The helicopter case.
okay,
He lost to one day, you know. You only hear about one, but he lost the next one.
He is consistent.
right. So, and I think actually, when that happens, we shouldn't laugh or snicker at it, because he may be smarter than all of us here combined. Because we keep speaking about how many cases he has lost, and he's never won a case. How did he get his lawyer degree? He had to go to the bar 5 times. But think about it, because I'm thinking of probably going into law. I want to basically become an attorney general, file a lot of actions, lose all of them, call my fellow attorneys to represent the state in the appeal and get a 10% kickback. So while we focus on his loss, who benefits from the loss? Because the case that just came up recently, that he wants to appeal, somebody's going to get a phone call in a preferred chamber to take the appeal.
Yeah, but
and they're going to make money. Yeah. And then you and I are going to be struggling what to say.
Unicort has hired a senior counsel to send out pre-action protocol letters to silence inquiry into the President's house and the Red House. They're not going to succeed with that silencing, but I want to say something to you. You say we snicker.
But just prior to...
But I want to say snicker.
But prior to you raising the issue of the Red House, that senior counsel didn't have that portfolio until you did it. So he has a job.
Okay, correct. But when you said that all we do is snicker, I want to tell you something. Until we get a government in office, and Vasant and Debat, you have to admit this, that recall legislation is overdue now, because we need to be able to fire non-functional governments in midstream.
Completely and totally.
We
and let me also
shouldn't have to wait for a full 5-year term.
And let me take my share of the responsibility also. Let me just say this, that where we are today as a society in Trinidad and Tobago and the atrocities that we're seeing, we can't just lay at the doorstep of this government. That would be unrealistic. What we are seeing, or the culmination of the social breakdown, the widespread social decay we're seeing, the criminality, is as a result of several intergenerational governments that have come forward for the last 30 years that have done nothing or turned a blind eye to many things. Yes, certain governments have been a bit better than the others, but the reality is that we all have to shoulder responsibility for where the country is today. And I think we need to ensure that it cannot be politics as usual. The same two guys, the same two people fighting it out, talking the same nonsense, playing politics, their supporters supporting them because they look one way or they look the other way. This is why we are where we are today for them. I
think that the entire countries are woke to that. Basant, and I want to say this. Now they're looking up and they're saying, okay, what do we do then?
I disagree with you. I don't think nobody is awake to that.
I know your position on that.
Anyway, I know that.
Share your position, but I know your position.
Unlike all, I here put my money where my mouth is. In 2007, I supported the Congress of the People. We went up. We get.
That was 13 years ago.
Hassan was on the other side.
That was 13 years ago.
And I have not seen the change. That's what my point.
But
it may be 13 years
ago. I want to say. I had to say to somebody when Congress of the People fought in 2007.
Even before that, you had Ramesh Lawrence Maraj, which I was.
No, but boss, you had gatekeepers. You had gatekeepers of note, Manning and Pandey, and I'm saying that the current crop are not that strong as those.
I hold the view. I am not sensing even an iota of similar.
So you're saying that with all of this that's going on in the society, Trinidadians are still going to be idiotic and vote along racial lines?
I am seeing that because if you watch at the last local government election, with the most unpopular PNM government that I think the PNM has ever had, with crime going up, with unemployment going up, with the healthcare going down, this PNM government effectively held their own. They held their own, so we cannot just dismiss.
Yeah, but 66% of the people didn't come out.
No, but traditionally 66% of the people don't come out.
Yeah, but the election, a local government election before general election is a referendum. Yes,
no, but here,
Yes or no?
No, I don't hold that.
Is it a referendum?
No,
yes or
I don't think
but
so.
they all spent $128 million
That
saying it
doesn't
was.
matter. But I am saying it's even an indictment that 66% people stay home. You are telling me you are facing a failed state, which we all say is happening here.
Okay.
But 66% of Trinidad and Tobago say the state.
I think all of us who,
but we're not coming out to vote.
no, because all of us
No.
who supposed to offer ourselves now as an alternative did not. So they did not really have options. A couple seats in Port of Spain had Louis Leasing as an option.
And nothing happened there.
Okay.
He declared he has a Latrin party afterwards because people didn't come out. 66% of the people did not come out.
Felicia, you wanted to say something?
The corporations, with the exception of Sandy Grande, because of one seat, remain the same.
Felicia, you wanted
So
to
you
say
have
something?
more.
It was just along the lines of what you were saying, where you said that the people still voted along racial lines. I mean, yes, you would still have the die-hard loyalists. There would always be the people who, no matter what, I born a UNC, I will die UNC, I born a PNM, I'll die a PNM. But I think the last local government election was an indication that people are really just fed up of those two options. And yes, Louis Leasing, he offered himself as an option in Port of Spain, which is known to be a PNM stronghold area. And the fact that he came out a few weeks before election, I don't think that was an indication of any.
When the NAR won, the only seats PNM held on to was the seats that Louis Leasing tried to fight. I mean, you don't go there.
We only have a few months before this hypothesis is tested.
Hey, and I'm saying this to all of us
And
here.
it's coming.
And that's
It's coming.
this. And Vasant, yourself, and all of us, and every single person who has an opinion and something to say and is agitating for a better Trinidad and Tobago at some point. We all have to get as, how to say this? We all have to get as committed to results as the racists and the corrupt.
I think
the corrupt in society. You know, Devant, you've seen people who despise each other work together in common
The
cause.
issue is not us here, you know. I mean, you have your
What is
your
the common
movement.
cause?
Yeah.
You have your movement. Vasant is out there.
You know, guys. I want to tell you something.
It's a mafia. It's a mafia. We look out after each other.
Let me,
I hate to say what I'm going to say now, but I believe that this society is probably more racially polarized than I can ever remember it. I have not known. I mean, yes, you have the middle group of people who are the professionals and the people who think about country. But I think when you talk up, there's a degree of almost hatred and bitterness that has been promoted by the politicians, that has caused Indians to say, "This is my party," and Africans say, "This is my party." I've never in my entire life known this country to be as racially polarized as it is today. And I'll say this,
but who benefits?
Sorry?
Politicians.
The politicians
No,
benefit
not
because
just
the
the
status
politicians.
quo is maintained.
No, but Vasant, I
See,
refuse to accept it's
understand
just
this.
the politicians. It's not
No,
just the
but
politicians.
No. But
The people who make money when the politicians win those
No,
elections,
I
those are
am-
the
I-
ones.
Of course, I understand that. But you see, when you look at the people believe, and so do I to a large extent, that these parties are almost mirror images of each other. There's nothing distinguishing with regard to policies from either party. And so therefore, the only distinguishing factor that they can push towards the population is that, hey, you looking like me, you have to vote for me. And if you do not do that, then you are an imakaram, you're a backstabber, you're a this, you're a that. Okay? And that is simply because there are no distinguishing
Okay, but
policies between the two.
I accept you say that, right? But look at the fortunes of Rwanda on the absolute rise as we
Yes.
speak.
Mm-hmm.
Their descent into hell culminated in the murder of the Hutus
The
and the
genocide.
Tutsi
Genocide.
Genocide.
genocide, right? So
Yeah.
we've not gone that far in our divisive politics. If Rwanda, that literally had blood flowing in the streets, if Rwanda could turn itself around, you saying Trinidad and Tobago can't turn itself around?
Well, maybe Rwanda was at one stage where we are. They felt they hadn't hit rock bottom yet, and they needed to do that to be able to turn themselves around.
And that statement is not an incorrect statement, because the level of violence. I saw a video this week in a gated community in the shadow of the ambassador of the United States of America, because he is protected by the Marines, and in the shadow of Flagstaff Hill, around Flagstaff Hill, there is a gated community called Flagstaff Community, and you have to pass through a checkpoint, Charlie, to get in there. You are across the road from the second largest military base in Trinidad and Tobago, literally across 12 feet of pitch, and 9 people invaded a house in broad daylight. You all saw that video?
Yeah.
Yes, I saw it. Yeah. Yep.
If that man in Flagstaff was not safe, who is? I mean, literally, the Marines and Trinidad's army guarding you.
Yeah. But it also shows you how brazen these criminals are today.
Because they feel nobody hold them accountable. That is it. They ain't getting catch.
Our murder detection rate is what? 16-17%?
Detection.
What?
Yeah.
No, 5%.
Detection rate under 5% now.
Under?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, 5%.
16% we would be
That-
celebrated.
16% is probably how much vacation percentage on right now.
The reality of the situation still presents itself to us now because, and Ian said it just now, that is not enough for us to just simply continue to list the problems, because we have to list solutions, and one of those solutions has to be all of the people who are capable of offering a solution need to now agree the election in front of us is probably the most important election this country will ever have. We will remember years from now what we did 2020. You know. Trinidad will either be a failed state, we will be talking over drinks in a foreign country, some of us mightn't survive. If we don't rescue Trinidad and Tobago, what happened this morning was a kidnapping in a hospital.
Okay, I'd like to pick up on Hassan's point as former ministers in a previous government, a partnership. And the underlying point he was saying, and I think we all concur, the country is polarized. So therefore we can almost predict with some certainty what the outcome might be in an election. Having said that, when the People's Partnership came into power, there was a defection of the MSJ. And that's alleged based on comments made when the party came into power. And I'm just paraphrasing. It's like we time now. Now, isn't that
That's why they defected.
isn't that a golden
No, I don't
opportunity?
accept that.
Isn't that a golden opportunity?
No,
But I won't accept that though. I
That's
can't
not
let you
true.
put that into the conversation because
Well, I
I
want to get to the point. We could take it out.
all right.
The point I want to make, if we are polarized based on race and a government, let's just hypothetically comes into power, how does that government take the opportunities given by the people that support it, that looks like them, to bridge the divide or to continue to operate the country like how the PNM operates the country? We are going to support the people that support us. Although he said when he won the election, I am not the Prime Minister of the PNM, I am the Prime Minister of the country. But
You
he has
put me-
not acted like
you
that
put
in the
me-
4 years.
You put me in
that
a
he-
position that I don't like to be in.
that he has not demonstrated that he has governed the country like he's the Prime Minister of the country. Therefore, the other half is saying, when we get the opportunity, we are going to put a Prime Minister in office.
For
and
your
going
half
to
of the
govern.
vote. For your half of the vote.
For my half of the vote.
Okay, I want to tell you something. You put me in a position that
So
I don't
why,
like to
why
be in.
didn't the UNC or the partnership seize that opportunity?
I
Because
wanna-
the PNM has been in power for the longest.
I want to answer.
That would have been a
I
good
want to answer. I want to
opportunity
answer,
begin to
and that's
turn
why I'm
it
saying to you, you
back.
put me in a
Well,
position
I
I
need
don't
to
like.
finish the point before.
No, but you see that point?
And that is why the country celebrated, albeit with euphoria, when Jack Warner won his seat for the ILP, a brand new party, because immediately he said, look at where he won the seat, look at the ethnicity of the person, and they thought for that moment voters were beginning to look beyond the texture of your hair. But it hasn't turned out to be quite like that since.
I want to answer, and I was saying just now, and that's why I said from the moment you said it, because I've not seen this in any other government, but I want to be able to say this, because at the point in time when the People's Partnership came to government, I resigned from the Congress of the People because I didn't think that we should have been joining with the UNC, even though other COP members went on to take up ministries like Devant Maharaj.
I know I resigned before election.
Listen, no, but the point I want to make is
No, I resigned before
Jack
election.
Warner wasn't my favorite person in the world. Before the PNM could find their pants on their shoes, when Keith Rowley had no following and nobody knew what a PNM was after the cutters they got in 2010. And twice, because they got it in May and then July, because they lost 2 elections in quick succession. I was the person. I was the person that was doing the most work to hold any political line outside of the government. And Jack Warner wasn't my favorite person, but I had written an article and it was published in the paper about solving the Diego Martin traffic. And Nicole Dyer Griffith called me on the phone and she asked me if I would like to present this to the minister. She was then some sort of communications advisor to the prime minister. And I got to present that to Jack Warner and the permanent secretary and the then director of highways, Raja Ganesh, and they agreed to do it. It was the People's Partnership government that put that four roads bypass in place, and for all the while they were doing it, I knew they didn't have a hope in hell in the coming election in Diego Martin. So I want to say that of all the governments, and that's why I said I don't like to be put in that position, but I had to defend that work was done in a constituency that they had absolutely no chance of winning. And if they would put a project that big there, then that kind of cancels out what it is you were saying there. And I think that we could get to a place where we as the people of Trinidad and Tobago could get a government that could represent the people and not just special interests. I believe that.
And I'll add to your point, they built a school in an area where Com Imbert neglected, and he showed up for the photo op with Ms. Processor. They built a health center, and right, correctly so, they wouldn't get a vote there, but they tried. But it's to go beyond that, where the people are saying this government transcends the border, where they divide by Grand Bazaar, and they are trying to bring the country together, as opposed to the perception being perpetuated. It is still an ethnic-based party who is going to support a particular contractor who had to leave last minute when the election was called. And prior to that, we had a do-so operation with Call the Heart. So they kind of counterweight whatever they're attempting to do. They bring some millstones around their neck, where the people who are probably saying, you know what, she don't look like me, but you know, you've got SIS, you've got Call the Heart, and one little do-so, and we go back to the race baiting, and we sneak into government with just 22 or 23 seats.
And you know what? You're absolutely correct. And I want to ask a question, Devon Vassan. We continue to make all our decisions on allegations and accusations because nothing in the state works. The 4.5 years Keith Rowley has been in office, he has made all kind of allegations. The People's Partnership had made the world of allegations against Call the Heart and all et al. Malcolm Jones.
So they won.
How could it be?
Malcolm Jones matter had reached the Privy Council.
Yeah, but he asked a question about the court. How does our justice system work so badly? How could we not have a timer? I am asking this question because judges have said this to me. Why we don't have a timer on court matters so that judges who can't bring their matter, who can't case manage, remove them from the bench. 3 years for civil matters, 5 years for criminal matters. That is more than enough time.
Okay.
Why can't we do things like that? Why can't a government come to office and say, okay, let's put recall so that the public who vote us into office can fire us. Let's make sure the justice system works, because all the frustration Gary feels with the justice system, I understand. A woman, there's a member of this party, her sister was a young girl who was raped in a police station. She went to the police station to make a report, and the ranking officer raped her, and that case took 17 years. How does a matter so open and shut take 17 years?
Because the system is itself corrupt, and that's the reality that we face.
So are we at a point now where Trinidad will willingly vote for a government of people that have all the right answers and all the right policies? Could we get all of the Avengers together, Devon? I said this to you before, you know, emotional intelligence. I heard somebody use that on Synergy TV this morning. I was calling and say, you're using a term, you don't understand what it means. Emotional intelligence means I don't have to like you, you don't have to like me, but if we're working together for the common good, that is what emotional intelligence is. And I believe that there are more than enough good people in this country that could fix all of the problems, and we are all divided and set apart by cheap politics.
I think you've been very optimistic there. Very, very.
Vassan?
I agree with you, Philip. I think that there are enough people around who are concerned and prepared not to just follow a party line, but concerned about where the country is heading, have the capacity to do something about it. I think that history, unfortunately, is a bad teacher in this case, in that most people feel, well, this has failed in the past. They've seen it fail. They've seen it tried and failed with the ONR, with the ANR, with the COP. NAR and the COP. And people have become, jaded by the system. They feel that, whatever happens, even if we give these people a 5 years, it's going to revert to race again. And that's all we have. And they just don't know how to pull themselves up.
But if you say the PNM and the UNC is a distinction without a difference, then the voter ultimately still has the responsibility to say, I still have to try.
You stop, the voter stop.
Or just stay out of it completely.
So it goes back to my question, and I have to use the UNC again, because they're an aberration to the continuous management of the country by the PNM, except for the break, UNR. That was a golden opportunity in retrospect, based on today's discussion, thinking, logically, that government should have done a lot more to probably begin the transformation of society and stem the tide that we're reaping, whether it's somebody being kidnapped in a hospital, whether women are being killed or shot.
Society cannot be changed in 5 years. Cannot be changed.
But there were certain things.
The bureaucracy alone works against you.
But there were certain things that fell into the narrative that the party needs to be removed from office.
Like what?
Based on allegations.
Like what?
Right.
Don't get into the allegations, but that is how the game is played.
Anybody can make an allegation.
And that's what the PNM, that's what the PNM does.
And okay, let's just form a
show on the other foot.
And not only is it show on the other foot, if you speak, it's lawsuit after lawsuit after
Let's
lawsuit.
form a party temporarily for the moment here.
We have one right here.
Right, okay.
We have one right here.
You represent the UNC, I represent the PNM. I just have to keep talking about Munila's Mall in Holland over and over and over.
Whether it's true or not.
Whether it's true or not. And then as it works through the skin, through osmosis, and in the bar and at the puja and at the church and the synagogue and the temple and the Diwali Naga site and the walking the cross up to Mount St. Benedict, when we get to vote, we remember that. I mean, I didn't have a mall. So those things,
why doesn't that kind of narrative
people into voting back on the traditional line?
But why doesn't that kind of narrative work in developed countries?
For example?
No, you just said if you.
No, but you asked a question. I want you to give me the developed country where it doesn't work.
Why does it not work? Why does that narrative not work in developed countries?
Allegations of corruption.
There are more allegations was thrown against Boris Johnson and Donald Trump. And Boris Johnson, who had serious allegations of having a significant female associate, spending the money of the British people as a mayor.
Yeah, why didn't it stick?
And it
why
didn't stick.
The allegations stick?
And it didn't stick. Because he had, and let's use it as an example. He devoided himself from those things, whether they were true or not, with the extent of the expenditure that he racked up. And he had a cause to rally the country around, Brexit. We haven't created, and it goes back to the point, there is no distinction between the PNM manifesto and the UNC manifesto. So last year, in the run-up to the election, we got a promise of a causeway from the Hyatt to Chaguaramas. But since they lost the election, the causeway has fallen apart. And in this year, we're going to get a lot more running up to the election, and they don't have to be delivered. And that is why I would suggest to the PEP to not have a manifesto, have a contract with the people. Because as the Prime Minister articulated in his interview on Sunday regarding a question posed him regarding to crime, he said the manifesto was just an intent of an expression. Of course, the journalists, if I was the journalist, I said, wait a minute, your manifesto is an intent of expression. It's not a document where you're promising to make deliverables. But of course, we slide through that, and you got 2 hours on some nice ornate chairs,
Yeah, but to quote Keith Rowley,
don't do that.
No, but I am, because he accused other governments of making policy on the hoof and government by VAPs, and we are seeing a government that has deviated so far from its manifesto, because people keep asking, where in your manifesto was the shutdown of Petrotrin? Where was the sale of Petrotrin? Where in your manifesto said that corporation sold?
Here it is. it's an expression of intent. Go back. He said it. It's documented.
Where in that manifesto, why didn't Kamal Georges, who had a wonderful opportunity,
He missed all.
ask the Prime Minister?
You know why they choose him?
You're turning this into a comedy show because I'm laughing at everything you're saying in agreement. I want to say the Prime Minister cannot account for any steps his government has taken. Nothing makes sense. The same policy position you took against others, you're covering for your own self. Camille Robinson Regis and the bag of money. Harry Hunt asking one question. How is it so difficult to answer for where the $143,000 come from?
But you have a pastor in court for $29 million,
At
right?
least he could say where he get his.
And he willing to tell you what you get, right?
Yeah, but where did Camille get the $143,000? And until we could get a single journalist who, no matter what Keith Rowley says, sticks a mic in his face and say, where did Camille get the I remember when Yasser Arafat shook hands with the then leader of Israel, and it was a global phenomenon. The world stopped to watch Bill Clinton usher in the era of peace, and when it was time for questions, the global media, the first person put up their hand, asked, is it true Monica has a dress? That was the first question. You just watch world peace created, but you stick to your narrative. Where are our journalists in Trinidad and Tobago to ask those questions?
Well, as I've told you in the past, Philip, and I'll tell you again here today on Plain Talk, we do not have journalists in the country. What we have are reporters. A person hired by a media house with a phone or old-fashioned digital recorder that will come up to you, ask a question, it's recorded. We rush back to office, literally, metaphorically speaking, to get that out in tomorrow's papers. And there's no better example than that 1 hour interview with the Prime Minister.
That was an interview, that was a PR for the Prime
That was a stunt.
That's what right.
The last one with the backdrop of the dollar, that
Right,
backfire.
okay. And
when he tried to account for all the money in the society.
So that goes to the point.
The PowerPoint. Yeah.
There are no hard-hitting journalists. None in the country.
Why didn't he ask? Vasan,
so if there
was
aren't,
it legal?
Okay, no, but if there aren't any journalists in the country, and journalism is the fourth estate, and we don't have one, we are missing an entire estate for which other countries, and we're going back to Vassant, he talked about first world countries, so now they do have a fourth estate
accountability
that holds
to the media.
you accountable.
Yes.
If we don't have one,
boss,
how could we wake up and try to run
a country when we don't
have one that is asking questions?
No, journalists come from Trinidad. Journalists came from Trinidad and went and won, got knighted in England. We've produced some of the best journalists in the world. The reason we don't have journalists now is because we've allowed the 1% to buy up our media well, besides consolidation, dumb it down and turn it into propaganda machines.
Yeah, but we as citizens have set the bar very low in terms of our expectations, and so therefore we don't demand enough of the media, we don't demand enough of our politicians, and we get what they dish out to us, and we take it and we swallow it. That's where we are, Philip. That's the reality of where we are.
The mess of the politics in the middle of the road now, the mess of the politics, everybody is speaking out, speaking loud. A lot of good stuff is coming out. How do you get that to coalesce? Is that possible? To form a new center, is that possible?
Okay,
I'll just asking.
I'll make a suggestion, and I need to, to be cognizant of Mr. Imbert. A devaluation of the dollar, raise fuel prices, get the right he wants, sue the Rwanda. People will now look to guidance for who can deliver the country from the state that they're in at that time. Because we alluded to it. How did the Hutsis and the Tutsis get to the point to turn it around? Everybody bristled. We don't really want to get to that point to turn it around. But that will do it. That will get all the middle of the road people and those who really love the country on the PNM and the UNC to probably say, you know what? I am part of a cult. I need to move away from it and come and think of country first.
So, I want to ask...
And what he's just saying, let me encapsulate something there. It's the classic dog on the nail syndrome. You know, there's a nail sticking out of the floorboard and the dog is lying on it. He's twisting and he's turning, but he's not actually getting up and moving away. because the skin hasn't been punctured as yet by the nail. And it's only when the skin gets punctured, he will actually get up and move. But he's uncomfortable, but he twists and he turns and he twists and he turns, but he won't move until.
So you think nationally, to use your analogy, we're not uncomfortable yet?
I feel so. I don't think we're uncomfortable enough. Philip, if we were, we would have done something about it
A lot of these
time
young...
Philip,
a lot-
you're the one that knows and keeps talking about the frog in the boiling water.
Listen,
You keep bringing that
The
conversation.
Minister of
It's
Finance, I want somebody to explain to me, how did the Minister of Finance accept a bid for the sale of Petrotrin based primarily on the fact that Patriotic had a $700 million upfront payment? For that reason, they were granted, they won the bid. And then, after you accept the bid, the same minister defers. You no longer have to pay the money. How is that legal? How do you change the terms of a winning bid after the bid? Vasant, how is that legal?
Well, first of all, the reality is that was not made public to the other bidders, that they would defer any cash upfront payment. So that first of all, that should have been challenged. The reality is, we all know this is politics. He categorically stated that the basis on which or for which they accepted it was because they got a $700 million payment upfront. And then you flip it over and say, well, okay, that's what we got, but you know what? We're not going to take the money for another 3 years or 5 years.
How does he legally get to defer that if that is the reason they won the bid? How?
Well, it's more political than legal. I mean, at the end, and it wasn't challenged. Let me tell you something. If any of the other bidders who were involved in this process had decided that they were serious enough about the refinery and they could probably make it work, they would have challenged it in court. But I guess they figured, this guy's Trinidad is a banana republic. They will do what they want. The government wants this to happen, and so they didn't bother to challenge it. Because when you put a tender out for open bidding, the terms and conditions must be transparent and known to all parties. So if it is that you expect that you're going to be deferring a payment, then you need to make known upfront that you intend to defer the payment. You can't come after the fact and defer payment or defer consideration for the asset.
In that case, the other companies should have been allowed to do
But that's what he's saying. He's saying the other companies had a right to challenge, but they may have chosen not to, because for something as ridiculous as the Minister of Finance making sole decisions for the entire country to sell its principal, most valuable asset under terms that he could vary at will. I asked somebody yesterday, if governments steal money legally by things like building buildings and renting it to the state at inflated prices, because there are no rules that govern how you rent your building to the state, then what is the point of all of this? If we cannot, as a nation, ask for a proper functioning country, if we can't ask for rules of engagement, if we can't say, you know what, don't come into politics unless you're really willing to serve. If you're really willing to serve, no family member should do business with the state for 10 years after you leave politics. So we guarantee that you're not coming in here to feather your nest. How about things like that?
Mr. Barrett made two salient points in his conversation last couple of minutes. He said, in response to your question, it's politics. That is germane. What he also said is not transparent. The only thing transparent in the PNM since they came into office since 2015 is Whitehall, where the office of the Prime Minister is located. Everything else is opaque. That's part of the answer.
We continue as a people to have the same arguments in different groups for the same reasons, come to the same conclusions, and yet fail to agree. Something has to be manifestly wrong with us as a combined people, regardless of race or class or religion, that all of us could know when I play Sparrow's song, We Like It So, from 1980, nothing's changed. Nothing. Nothing in that song could be challenged, or we could say in the years and that have passed that follow that song, we've corrected these things. Nothing. 30 years ago, Tyrone Hernandez, when he sang Vote Them Out, the things that he listed, nothing's changed.
Philip, 60 years ago, we were supposed to have 24/7 water. 60 years ago.
All right, that's what the viewing. 65 years, no water. Matura. Okay. Continue.
I have to give all of you an opportunity for your closing comments. Vasant, I'll start with you as you started us off.
Well, thank you for having me on this morning, Philip. This is past being a sad time for Trinidad and Tobago. I find it hard to have expressed myself this morning with regard to talking about the politics, because I think we have just gone beyond this stage now as a nation. We are rotting as a country. We truly are a failed state. Our young people are leaving in droves. Many of them contact me on a daily basis to say that they've now left, they're now living in Canada, or they're looking to leave, and so on. And we are going to essentially be left with the dregs of society. There are a few people who are brave enough to speak out, like yourself and others who speak on a daily basis. And thankfully, we have social media that allows you that medium to get your voice out. But I just think that our politics has paralyzed us. We are more polarized than ever. Unless a few of us get together, as you said earlier on today, and work out some kind of solutions, then unfortunately more people are going to leave and more people are going to die.
Thanks a lot, Vasant. Devon.
Yes, good. Thanks for bearing with me today. I think we have started 2020 on a very grim note from almost the first day of the new year. And it doesn't bode well for what's coming in the next 11 months of 2020. And really and truly, we need to have a deep introspection in each and in every household to see if we want to continue along the same lines and expect somehow or the other some magic transformative action to happen without some sort of participation, active participation on our own part.
That's the most optimistic thing I've ever heard you say.
To make it happen.
That's the most optimistic.
I choose the word realist.
All right, but that was very optimistic. That wasn't real. But anyway, continue.
I think we need to assume that at this point in time Trinidad is dead, and let us see how we could live a second life with it now. What we need to do. We spoke about the tragic situation that happened this morning, but I was at the healthcare system. I was at Mount Hope last week, and it was like a war zone. I told the doctors there, I remember that point we were speculating if there were going to be a war with Iran and US. Everybody in the world was talking about World War III. I could recommend without any reservation that our doctors and nurses go to in that war, because they operate in almost a siege mentality, and everybody at Mount Hope in the emergency unit was over 35, right? Various stages of undress and so on, because they will have their medical issues. Your sight and sound and senses were assaulted with all the things that come along with a hospital. I didn't see a single doctor or nurse wasting time. Everybody was overwhelmed with the limited resources that they have. And unfortunately, if you don't have money in this country, dog better than you when you're sick. And Terence Dial Singh has not visited these institutions on a regular basis to really appreciate what those of us who cannot afford to go to the West Shore, the Medical Associates or St. Clair have to go to. And these are the realities. Sure, you may go in a foreign country and you may have to wait about 6 hours, but is the environment you work in, first of all, you're not herded in a pen-like condition like an animal. you're comfortable, and when you walk out, you're treated. We don't have that here. Some of the basic building blocks of our civilization as Trinidad is
Listen.
crumbling. It's on being undone. I mean, you are driving San Fernando yesterday. We all have to scramble to the side, almost on the pavement, as justice on time pushes us off the road. And I mean, I want to know the irony of ironies. You are prisoner in that van going for the last 10 years in justice on time for a case that cannot be heard yet. I mean, what justice on time for who? Neither for the victim nor the accused. The only person getting justice on time is when that check right every month for Amalgate.
Part 2 to this show soon. Ian Griffith.
All right, so much has been said this morning, but I'll probably just go back to somehow I think Trinidad, to paraphrase you, when the Union Jack came down, was almost like inheriting an Oldsmobile 67. And just like in Cuba, we keep patching it with old passcode. There's an embargo. So the country institutionally never developed. And all that we're expressing here, if we just step back a bit, not to diminish anything that was said about any loss of life for anyone, is institutional failure. There is only one institution who's wobbling at the moment that is giving us some hope, and there are a few judges who are giving us hope in that entire arsenal of attorneys. And they do pay a price for their judgments and being outspoken. The others are very cloistered and very quiet because it benefits them to operate in the system that gives them the lifestyle and the Porsche Macans and everything that they do. The judicial system is the only one that is holding up the country at the moment, albeit on wobbly legs. Every other institution has failed, and it's because of the inheritance when the Union Jack came down, what institutions we got and how we did not actually at that time, probably like the present house, gut it and retrofit it so we can have a better society. We took it, we nurture it, and it's imploding upon us. Every institution, every commission, and how it's structured and how it's set up and how someone can be dismissed and all of the tendering process, all those are archaic processes, right? And we are trying to fix this country, not cognizant of the fact that, we are in an old brewery. And we're trying to produce high quality beer, as an analogy.
Ruben.
So I'll let Jessica.
I have to let her go last.
Okay. Well,
Thanks for trying to be a gentleman.
all I want to say is, let's move away from the divide and let's focus on creating a model of a country. This may sound a little bit optimistic, but it's all within us. It's if we want to do it, we can get to do it. It's not going to be up to anybody else. Thank you.
This was not my closing statement. I'll say it after. I'll give my closing statement in a bit. But I sat in a panel with Dr. Fuad Khan this morning, who told me off air that we have one of the best healthcare systems. And the question that I did not ask him, and I should have, was when he gets sick, does he go to Mount Hope or Port of Spain or San Fernando? Because I highly doubt that he does. What I did want to say as my closing statement, though, is that if you speak to any young person under 25, under 23, they will tell you that PNM and UNC are the same thing. This country is corrupt. They have already figured out that this is a corrupt system, and they have figured out how to work with the corruption. They are not about working hard, and I'm not saying this is all people, but they have already figured out that this
Crime
is how
pays.
crime pays. Exactly. Thank you.
Crime pays.
Crime pays. So the outlook for the future, should we remain stuck in this two-party system, doesn't look much better when you have a generation who is growing up already accepting that crime is the answer, be it white collar or gang violence or picking up a gun or anything, to do anything nefarious like that. So the time to arrest the time to arrest this situation, I believe, is now. Like Philip said, it's not getting any better. It's actually only going to get worse, because you have an upcoming generation who has already seen how you can capitalize on the brokenness of this country. So when we say 2020 is for me, it's the last year, because after this, if things don't turn around, I don't know if I will be here, because I don't want to be here for the collapse should it come. And it very much
But are
seems
you
like
willing to give up another 5-year chunk of your life for more of this madness? Because I ask Trinidadians that all the time, and don't they realize that after the election, 5 years of your life is going to be spent. You become of age, and you have about 40 years of voting, 8 elections. Your life shrunk down to 8 elections, and if every single one of them fails you, what did you do with your life?
I mean, you could say that you were a very strong patriot and you fought for your country, but you can also look at it as you wasted a lot of your life fighting against systems and mindsets that
I said it.
that almost can't be changed. I still don't think at this point it is impossible. I still think that there can be a catalyst for the change.
You are looking at the governance, and the governance is possible. That could fix. It is the politics that eluding us. And if you listen to the conversation, that's the problem.
It is.
Trinidad's problem is the politics.
And the politics of the politics. But yeah, that was my closing statement.
SOS from the failed state of Trinidad and Tobago. Our flag is upside down and half-mast, and the mast is on fire. We, the people of Trinidad and Tobago who are still here, who the sun rises and sets on in this country, we are all in danger. That young man who went to the hospital to work last night didn't expect he'd be dead this morning. His parents didn't, his family, his loved ones didn't. The guys who went out to kidnap him, they didn't know they were going for him. Were they going for any doctor? They were going for him in particular. Where are we going, Trinidad and Tobago? I have received a pre-action protocol letter from a state company that is a creature of taxpayers' funds that wants to prevent me from asking how those funds are being spent. I am waiting to see what the court does with that. Trinidad and Tobago cannot continue along the lines where those on the top who hold public office pay scant courtesy and total disregard for the management of the country. The responsibility for it is theirs. The responsibility for who we put there is ours. We could have a better Trinidad and Tobago. We simply have to want it. I want to say thank you to my panel, Devon, Vasant, Felicia, Ian, Ruben. I want to thank Satish Ramsaran, who is the head of Pep Media, makes this happen, puts the magic on after the show. I want to thank all of you who watch it and all of you who share the video. And I want to call on everybody in Trinidad and Tobago to listen to what everybody is saying and seriously put aside ego, put aside bad mind, and start to think Trinidad and Tobago. Because if we don't get busy fixing it, get a plan to get out of it. Stay safe, Trinidad and Tobago.